I never want this to happen to me ever.
Is this the most realistic or one of the most realistic like airplane depictions you've seen?
That startle effect thing is real though, and I feel like I've experienced that a couple of times.
What's the closest you've come to an emergency?
There is a rule that states that you can't have an abattoir or like a butcher shop or anything like that within, I think, 1 kilometer of the airport.
It's now considered one of the best comedies of all time.
Anyone could walk into the airport.
And this is what dad jokes aspire to be like.
There was a lot of politically incorrect stuff, and the likes of which I feel like just cannot be made anymore.
I thought The Office had the funniest use of staying alive.
Nothing was real about it, and that's why I like it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lost in Thought podcast. This is a podcast about movies, literature, pop culture, and a lot more. And continuing our series of interesting conversations with interesting people, I'd like to welcome my friend Tanay Hegde. Welcome, Tanay.
Good to be here, man. Happy to do this. It's been some time in the making, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited about today's conversation because we're going to do something slightly different from what I've done in the first few episodes. But yeah, I'll just introduce you for the audience first. So Tanay is actually a pilot who works with Akasa Air. And before this, has also worked with Air India Express, Jet Airways, and Etihad. He is a third generation pilot. So he's the third generation of people in his family to be a pilot after his dad and his granddad. His grandfather was actually a pilot who fought for the Indian Air Force and has also participated in World War II. So that's a bit of history. And apart from this, Tanay is also like a football fan, a football enthusiast, a fitness enthusiast, and a sneaker ahead, amongst other things. Unfortunately, it's my sad duty to reveal to you all that he is also a Liverpool fan. And despite this abominable quality
You
that he
hate us
has,
because you ain't us.
yeah, I mean, I let's just not get into that, but I'm willing to forgive that and overlook that. But yeah, it's good to have you on this podcast.
I'm excited to do this, man.
Cool. So what we've done so far in the previous episodes is that each guest has talked about one movie that they really like or that has some special significance for them. But what we're going to do today is slightly different. We're actually going to talk about two movies. And keeping in with your profession, both the movies are aviation related. So I'm really excited to see how this goes. So today we're going to be talking about Sully and the movie Airplane, both of which are great flying related movies. And I'm just keen to get a pilot's perspective on them. So let's start with Sully and then we'll talk about Airplane after that. So, for our viewers and listeners, I mean, I'm sure most of you know or have heard of the movie Sully, but I'll just describe it briefly. This is a 2016 film, American film directed by Clint Eastwood and written by Todd Komarnicki, starring Tom Hanks, of course. It's based on a 2009 book, which is an autobiography called Highest Duty. And it's the autobiography of Chesley Sullenberger. It's not Chelsea, but it's Chesley, which is a weird name. Chesley Sullenberger, aka Sully for short, who's of course an airline pilot, and he's best known for an emergency landing that he did in the year 2009, when his plane was struck by like a bird and the engines failed, and then he couldn't make it back in time to LaGuardia Airport in New York. So he landed the plane on the Hudson River in New York City, and that made big news at that point of time. And there were 155 passengers and crew on the flight, and all of them survived. So that was a big thing. And he wrote this book describing that experience. And that book has been adapted into this 2016 film starring Tom Hanks, directed by Clint Eastwood. This was the 36th highest grossing movie of 2016. It made, I know, it made $240 million on a $60 million budget. So I guess that was a good year for the movies because that's a pretty good amount of money to make. And I was surprised that it was only 36 on the list. And yeah, this movie is available to stream on Prime for people who are watching in India. For people who are not watching in India, I guess, I mean, just figure out where it's available. But given that there are about 15 people watching right now and they're all probably in India. Safe to like say that. But yeah, Tanay, let's talk about Sully. And, as a pilot, why is this one of the first movies that sprang to mind when we were discussing what to talk about?
Um, I think firstly, generally, I would say no one's making movies on airline pilots or airlines as such. There are far more exciting things to make movies about. But the overall picture that I got from this was, or what hit me the most was the realism aspect of it. Especially the scenes in the cockpit while everything was happening. It seemed like immaculately researched, properly done. The visuals were great. Like I'm sure everyone's seen like that grainy footage from some building where they show the aircraft landing on the river, but to have it made like this, it was kind of cool to watch. I never want this to happen to me ever, but to see it is was interesting. Was really interesting, and they kind of ticked all those boxes, and they didn't kind of like dumb it down for the audience also. So there were a lot of things they were doing in the cockpit during the emergency where there was no sort of like breakdown, or they maybe didn't expect the audience to understand exactly what was happening, but at the same time they didn't make any overt effort to be like, okay, I'm doing this for this reason or I'm doing that for that reason. So technically it was good, and I of course know exactly what was happening. So that was pretty cool to see, you know
So you're
yeah.
saying the actual movements and the buttons they pressed and all of
Yeah,
that
like
was fairly.
the way they communicated, the way the emergency kind of unfolded, what they had to say, the communication between ATC and tower. Obviously there are transcripts, so they could reproduce that, but they did not. They just said the transcripts over the dialogue, like the actual recorded transcripts over the dialogue. So that's pretty cool. Like that's nice, and they kind of played it out in its entirety. Like I think he mentions it was 208 seconds or something like that is all that he had, and they stitched, albeit in like different kind of movements, which I also enjoyed, because they played one part at one part of the movie, then another bit of the emergency in another part, and then at the end they kind of played the whole thing to wrap it all together. So as a nice way to do it as far as the film aspect is concerned, but from the technical aspect, that was cool. That
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Is this the most realistic or one of the most realistic like airplane depictions you've seen?
Yes, yeah, I would say. I think a lot of people will think about Denzel Washington in Flight,
Mm.
but what happened in Flight is like kind of ridiculous. The pilot sleeping with the air hostess part in the beginning was like probably really the realist aspect of the job, but the stuff that he does with the plane and all, and like the drinking on board, no, come on, like I've never heard of such a thing like in the what like 15 years that I've been flying. So yeah, that was not it. I mean, it's a good movie. I liked it. I enjoyed it. But this, I think, is the realist thing. Air crash investigations, like yeah, Nat Geo, great, decent recreations of things. But when you have a 60 million budget, then you can like really make it look nice, which they kind of did,
Mm.
and I really appreciated that aspect of it. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned Flight, so I'll just briefly describe it for people who have not seen it. So what you're referring to is that's a Denzel Washington movie where he flies the plane upside down, if I remember correctly, and
Yeah.
there's some convoluted reason as to why he's doing that because that's the right move to make at that point of time.
Yeah, exactly. And he's doing this while he's drunk,
And
I
he's doing this
think.
while he's drunk, and then it
Yeah.
comes out later that he's drunk, and of course he has to face an investigation and everything. But it's like his point is, even though I was drunk, this was the right thing to do,
Yeah.
and that's not based on a real thing, of course. This one is based on a real incident.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, cool. So I watched Sully a few years ago, but now when I rewatched it for this conversation, it was very interesting because I had a lot of questions which I didn't have the first time because I knew I was talking to you about it. So I have questions about the realism, and I have a few more questions about what is realistic and what is not. But before we get to that, I'll just talk about the events in the movie a little bit more for people who need their memories refreshed or people that are watching this podcast without having watched the movie. So, like I mentioned, this is a emergency landing that happens on the Hudson River because this plane that takes off from New York City gets its engine gets hit by like a bird strike. So they have to return. The protocol is that they return to the airport, but Captain Sully decides he's not going to make it to the airport. There's not enough time, so he decides to land on the river. Like you said, they show various parts of this sequence throughout the movie. It's not like a linear screenplay where everything is in order. You're sort of seeing going back and forth between various events. So you just see this throughout the movie at various points. But the rest of the movie is really the aftermath of that, where there's an investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board, or NTSB for short, which is, I guess, the US agency that investigates aircraft crashes or near misses. And they are trying to justify or investigate whether Sully did the right thing or whether his decision to land on the water was wrong and it could have risked the lives of people, or whether they actually took the right call and deciding not to return to the airport. And there's also the aftermath of that, where I mean, there's also the aspect of the public reaction where Sully is hailed as a hero by the general public and how he's dealing with that and how that contrasts to the NTSB's skeptical attitude towards his actions. So that's really what the movie is about. Now, my first question to you is, how much do you train for situations like this in terms of?
So there are, it's actually pretty interesting that you ask. Now, as far as training is concerned and incidents, what airlines do is they collate data as to what kind of incidents are the most likely to happen. And we get trained on that more than we do on incidents like what happened with Sully. So there is a training for like loss of thrust on both engines, which that's what he asked for the checklist, right? Like from the QI. So that training does happen, but that training will happen once a year, for example, or once every 2 years. And regular engine failure, like a single engine failing, the likelihood is higher than you losing both. So that gets trained like every 6 months. So we believe, or like the aviation industry believes, that the likelihood of you having a single engine failure is far higher than having both engines fail, especially at a low altitude and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, reasonably often, I would say, like as far as training goes.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And what's the protocol like? If you have an engine failure, is the protocol always to like return to airport or?
No, if you have a single engine failure, uh, you would want to return back because it is the closest. But then there are lots of other factors. Like it depends on what airport it is. Because sometimes, like when you're loaded for takeoff, you can't, if you have to come back to an airport with a short runway, for example, like Mangalore, just as an example, would you really want to come back there? Or like if you have enough fuel, you'd want to go to like a Bangalore, for example, which has like long runways and like better weather, perhaps easier, you know runway to or airport environment, that kind of stuff. So it's never, and that's the other thing like I wanted to bring up also, is never black and white. Like nothing is you made the wrong decision. It is very rarely like that. It is kind of gray, and where you bring out your justification for doing the actions that you did is what matters a lot as well. And that's why you see in the movie there's this whole NTSB investigation, and they're talking to Sully and they're asking him like, why did you do it? And oh, we ran the simulations and this and that. uh, a big part is they want to know what kind of information you had to make the decision you made. And generally, like if everything works out no one's going to question things too much,
Mhm.
But in the case of Sully, everything did work out except that they lost an airplane, right? Like because it was in the river.
Yeah.
So then, and I think they mention it also, insurance or something like that, they say in the movie. And I think that's also a big factor for uh, these sorts of investigations. If you had just come back to an airport and landed, it would not have been, uh, I mean, it would be investigated as it should be, but as much, maybe not, it's like that. So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's very interesting. And I'm just wondering how much of this is part of your thinking process actively versus it's just something that's in the back of your mind and instinct. So, for example, if you're taking off from Mangalore, to use the example that you gave, right, and say,
Yeah,
God forbid, like something happens in the air after you take off from Mangalore.
yeah.
Before you take off itself, have you already taken into account that okay, like if there's an emergency, this is my option, or is it like you just react in the moment if something happens?
No, so you're supposed to. So while when we get into the aircraft and we're doing our cockpit preparations, we do this thing called a briefing. So it's done before every takeoff and before every landing, and that's when you'll discuss the normal stuff that's supposed to happen, like okay, we're supposed to take off, turn left, whatever, climb, all that kind of stuff. But you'll also discuss the emergencies. So, like I was talking about the things that they determine to be more common, you're right, is like an engine fail. So you will discuss, okay, if we do get an engine fail while we're departing from here, we can either come back to land here, or like okay, getting out of Bombay, for example, Ahmedabad becomes an option. So like maybe we'll go and land in Ahmedabad if the weather is really bad in Bombay, or for whatever reason Bombay shuts down or something like that. So that's done before every flight. So there's a plan. It's very rarely a thing where you don't discuss what's going to happen, especially like worst case scenarios. And there is some amount of training that you have been imparted for everything. So there is always a plan. There is always a plan. And it looks like we're sitting and doing nothing. But that is rarely the case. Like there's always something going on. There is always something going on. So yeah, there's a lot of planning that goes into all of this. And I think they also, during the investigation, they talk about that 35-second delay. So that startle effect thing is real though, and I feel like I've experienced that a couple of times. And you're sitting and nothing's happening, then suddenly, like, you go from 0 to 100 really, really fast, and the human mind cannot, like, despite the amount, whatever. I think Mike Tyson said it best, right? He's like, everyone has a plan till you get punched in the face. So it's a little like that. You're going to take those 10-15 seconds, because I think the biggest thing that enters your mind is like, you're like, oh shit. And then you are always like, I can't believe this happening to me. I can't believe this happened. Like, so you're going to take that 10 seconds to be like, is this really happening or not?
Yeah.
Or 15 seconds or whatever. And then, like, hopefully the training kicks in, which it kind of does, in like, from what I've seen and in my experience. And then everything starts to become, so long as you can keep your composure, everything starts to become kind of or like, one thing follows another, a sequence rather, that you've been trained in. And then you kind of get used to the situation, and you make your decisions or do what you have to do.
Hmm. I don't know whether you can answer this, but like, what's the closest you've come to an emergency?
uh so I had twice. Once I had a cracked windshield.
Oh,
So I don't know if you've ever seen, like, glass crack in front of you,
no.
like any sort of tempered glass. It makes this noise.
Sorry,
Okay.
I've heard glass shattering when Stone Cold Steve Austin comes into the arena,
Okay. It
but
does not sound anything like that. It doesn't sound anything like that. I mean, maybe a regular glass pane does, but like tempered, we have we have these like really strong pieces. They're not even glass actually. It's like glass, vinyl. There's an airspace. It's electrically heated, so it like really strengthens the glass. So for that to crack takes a lot, right? It's like built to withstand, a lot of things. And like when you hear it crack, it's like you're dropping a metal dumbbell on a metal floor. So
Wow.
it makes this like pop that sounds like that. And so I still remember actually I was just like I was filling in some paperwork and I heard the sound and I thought someone in the back had dropped something, like in the galley one of the crew had dropped something. uh, but then I was a first officer then, and then I heard the captain. He goes like, "Oh shit!" And then I look up and I see like these cracks. And we were doing a Bombay Cochin flight. I still remember, and we were just a little bit past. I'm going to say Mangalore. Yeah, we were a little bit past Mangalore, flying all along the coast. And then I was like, "Oh!" And now you run the checklist because that's the
Mm.
first thing you have to do. And luckily, the captain was a really experienced guy. He seemed to know exactly what to do, and because he was calm, I was calm. Just did the checklist. We went and landed at Cochin, of course, and then the aircraft had to be grounded. So the aircraft was there, and yeah, we had to wait for another aircraft to come in. But yeah, that was one. I think that was the closest
I
or most
mean,
dangerous, I would say.
as a first officer, I'm guessing the words you don't want to hear your captain saying are "oh shit," right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't, but I mean that's only natural. You know what I mean? Everyone's gonna react in some way. I was just happy he didn't react like badly to it, or because you will see a wide range of reactions that people have when faced with adverse situations. And I mean, it's interesting from a human psychology kind of standpoint, but the last thing you want to have is that kind of a person when something is happening. Like you really want to have someone with ice in their veins because like things can get away from you fast.
Hmm.
And then if you start playing catch up after that and your mind is not, that's not a good time. It is really not a good time. And we see that in the Sims, like when we do it and it happens to us as well, you know. So you know exactly what it's like. But that's why we train, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. I think this decision making aspect is one of the my favorite things in this movie because you deeply touched upon it, but I'll explain it a little bit, which is the fact that so once this engine fails, he eventually decides to do the landing on the river. And but before that, like you said, he's going through a decision making process to say like they're looking at a checklist and seeing. I don't remember the exact technical things. I'm sure you do, but they check a few parameters and stuff, and like they run through a few things, and then that's when he realizes that okay, this is not going to work out, and I just need to now land this. And then later, when the NTSB is doing the investigation, they run some simulations. And initially, all the simulations are successful in terms of returning to LaGuardia Airport. So all the simulations indicate that, yeah, after the strike, you had enough time to land, to go back and land at the airport. And they're questioning him, saying, like, all the simulations show that you had enough time to do this. So why didn't you? And then what he says is the really key point, which you mentioned, which is that you are trying to investigate human error, but you're not putting humanity into the simulation. So yeah, I mean, the pilots are turning because they know that as soon as the bird strike hits, they have to turn and land at LaGuardia because that's what they're testing in the simulation. But in real life, they have to actually try, like, they have to go through the decision making process. They have to look at this checklist. They have to check XYZ things. Then they have
Yeah.
to take a call to say, do I do this or that? And that all of that takes time. And then they say, okay, fine, you have a point. And they give him like a 35-second delay in the simulation to say, like, we account for your decision making time as 35 seconds. And apparently, actually, the time was more like 80 or 90 seconds in real life. And even in the movie, I think it's like 55 seconds or something.
Yeah. So, what in those simulations, so they actually did the simulations, and there's a good retelling of the way NTSB or that kind of questioning process happened. In real life, once they gave that delay, In the movie, they show it's a little bit dramatic, like they couldn't make it and all that kind of stuff. But the landings were successful in the simulations, even with that time delay. But they were just very few, like only 10% of those actually made it back. You
You're
know,
saying in real life.
in real life,
Yeah.
when they ran the simulations, they found that only like I think 2 out of 20 managed to get back to the airport. The rest all fell short, after that time. So, I mean, that was interesting. They do have so when we fly actually, and we make mistakes, which I mean everyone does, we get these emails. Okay, and now depending on the severity, because they can track all the flight parameters, right? So the moment you move out of a, let's say, safe flight parameter, you get an email after the flight. And they, depending on the severity of the this thing, it's either just like an informatory mail saying, "Dude, you did this, so be careful next time," or if it's like a really bad exceedance, then they're gonna ask you the reasonings for it. And if it's really, really bad, then they're gonna ground you and then they're gonna call you in for questioning. Like the airline will do this themselves.
Mm.
Uh, So in the cases where these mails come in, they will actually send you like the recording of your flight data along with a little bit of an animation with the kind of instruments and the aircraft kind of like flying and how it moved and all that kind of stuff. So these simulations happen like on all levels, from like a safety within the airline kind of level all the way to the manufacturer, especially when something goes wrong. So I think like these big simulations last I can remember happened when the whole MCAS stuff happened with the 737 Max, right? So that time they started running a lot of simulations, and we also had to get into the simulator and like do these kind of exercises based off the MCAS. So yeah, it's that's what I mean, like it's so accurate. Like I felt like it was really, really accurate.
Yeah. So in this film, the simulations that they run are mainly as a investigative tool where the NTSB is checking whether or not he could have landed it successfully.
Yes.
But what role does a simulation play in the everyday life of an experienced pilot, if any?
So, I mean, like anything, if you want to correct your mistakes, right, or you want to try and think about like how did that happen? What was? It's like going through game footage when you're playing a sport. You're gonna watch, see where you made the mistake, and then kind of next time you have to do it, keep in mind that, oh shit, this is where it went wrong under these kind of like conditions. So I need to avoid doing this, that, or the other. So this is basically like self improvement, I guess you could say.
So
Yeah.
it's something that you do proactively, like on a regular basis, or
I mean, when you get those mails now, it depends on you really. If you feel like you're really wondering how did this happen, and you can't remember exactly what the parameters were, you have that kind of video in front of you. If you remember it crystal clear, then and you kind of assessed it yourself, if you're experienced enough or whatever, then you may just kind of not have a look at it and be like, oh yeah, I remember that this happened. It's good that they've sent me a mail. I've seen it. Now, like, hopefully I can avoid it the next time, you know. Because sometimes you screwed up and you're just like waiting for that mail to kind of confirm it, you know. So, yeah, yeah.
hmm. There are a couple of other things I wanted to talk about with regard to realism. So, one is the bird strikes, right? Like, how common are bird strikes or uncommon are bird strikes?
So bursaries are really common,
That's what I would imagine.
especially India. You have advisories for almost every single airport that says caution birds in the vicinity. It's just, and I think so. A lot of people may not be aware, but there is a rule that states that you can't have an abattoir or like a butcher shop or anything like that within, I think, 1 kilometer of the airport.
Really?
It's not allowed. That is a law. But obviously, now, like Bombay, all these like big metro areas where they've had old airports, they've got a kind of exception, like a waive off. because how do you control it? But a big reason for that is birds, because birds get attracted to the carcasses. So they'll be flying around within 1 kilometer of the airport. And if it hits an aircraft, there's going to be damage. Uh, Another cool fact for people who may not know is that the Towers of Silence in Mumbai is actually a prohibited area. So there's no aircraft flying allowed over the Towers of Silence. And it's not for any religious reason or anything like that. It's because of the birds. So, no aircraft will ever fly. It's a small, I think 1 mile around the Tower of Silence, there's no flying allowed. But yeah, that's also birds. So really, really. In fact, the other day, I think I'd done a Prayagraj flight. I'd landed and there were just kites sitting at the end of the runway. And they were just sitting there. And we got really close to them and then they flew away. We were at a slow speed, so nothing was going to happen. But yeah, bird strikes, very common, very common. Yeah. And they can cause damage, depending on the size of the bird,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Were you the one who told me? I think you were the one who told me how they test for plane engines. Could
Yeah,
you talk
yeah.
about that?
Yeah, so during the manufacturing process, different companies like Boeing doesn't make the engine. General Electric or like Rolls Royce or other companies like CFM, they are the engine manufacturers and they provide the engine to Boeing. So now to test their reliability, because we fly through a lot of bad weather and or other things like hit birds, they actually throw frozen chickens, like dead, obviously dead frozen chickens, into the engines while they're running to test that they can actually absorb the hit and continue to run without significant damage. And there are cool videos on YouTube with regards to this. So you'll have guys just chucking chickens into the engines, and the engines kind of misfire for that second, but then they're back on again. And to that note, I want to take a moment to just kind of, I don't know if people understand this, but these jet engines are like an engineering marvel. Legitimately, one of the best pieces of technology that we as a human race have ever created. Because if you just consider all the factors, if you look at the way it's built, if you see its reliability, it just blows my mind every single time, and literally pushing 350 tons worth of aircraft through the skies at 80% the speed of sound, just by pushing a small fraction of air out of it really, really fast. It's mad. It's mad. Everyone, when stepping on an aircraft, should be like, I can't believe we have got here from making the wheel and creating fire, that
Yeah.
kind of a thing. It's mad. It's mad.
Yeah,
So
I think Louis C.K. has a bit about how people on planes should be just like mad with excitement all the time. But it's because you're sitting in a chair in the sky and you're just taking it for granted.
yeah, I this is why I don't understand. People have gripes and all that stuff, but dude, you're sitting in an aircraft. There's a 15-minute delay, and you're like, man, this sucks. Like, how can there be a 15-minute delay? And all? You are going from Bombay to New York in 12 hours. Your grandfather would have taken 7 days to get there, or something such.
Yeah, longer weeks, like two or
That,
3 weeks probably.
yeah, it's on an exponential scale. And the amount of things that have to work together in order for this plane to make it from point A to point B, and the number of people working on it, it's just it's impossible to kind of give a sense to people what it takes. And everyone's just like, oh my god, 5 minute delay, this sucks, I'm never flying this aircraft or airline again. Just relax, man, relax, And we all want to get home. I also want to get back home on time only, I don't want to be sitting in the aircraft for 10-15 minutes longer than I need to. But man, come on, just kind of be happy, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Um,
yeah, that's a number one pet peeve for me.
I will share a link to that Louis C.K. video also in the notes for people who want to. It's very similar to what you're saying.
Nice, nice. Yeah,
Um, the other thing I was curious about is the air traffic controller, because in this movie, the air traffic controller seems to like almost have like a personal take it personally when he thinks this plane is lost. He gets really sad
yeah.
and he starts crying, and he, I guess, of course, he's an air traffic controller and he's doing his job. But is there something more personal to it in the sense that, I don't know, do air traffic controllers have some sort of, is it like a one-to-one mapping where a particular plane is one person's responsibility or something of that sort?
No, no. So there's one air traffic. Every air traffic controller handles a particular area. So, and the area is like an airspace. So, from a certain altitude to a certain altitude, and from a certain distance to another distance. So, if you have to think about airspace, it's like an upside down wedding cake, for example. So the bottom, I mean the top most tier, which is the smallest, will be like just the airport, so that the tower will handle largely. Then as you go up and out, there will be a radar controller. As you go further up and out, there'll be another guy. And then as you reach cruise airspace and a longer distance, there's another person. So they handle that kind of volume of airspace, let's say, right? So whatever aircraft is in that airspace is like their responsibility, for example. So how personally they take it, I am unsure. Like, I don't know. I think it's a very person to person sort of thing. And I do feel maybe there's a little bit of drama involved, like because it is a movie, they kind of made it seem like that. That being said, uh, Indian ATC, they may not, like, there are other regions in the world that I've flown to where, the ATC is really, really on the ball.
Mhm.
But man, Indian ATC, for what we have, they do a phenomenal job. And Bombay ATC is the best in the country. I can easily say it. There is one runway, I think it's like the busiest single runway airport in the world. The volume of traffic they handle is immense. The kind of pressure they are under is also immense. And like sometimes we can tell when we're communicating with them because there are just so many aircraft and they do an amazing job. It's going to get a little bit worse for all of us because the monsoons are coming and that's when like stress levels are going to be through the roof.
Yeah,
But man, they do a great job. They do a great job. I can't say anything bad about them.
that's
It's like,
reassuring.
yeah, yeah. And, they are there as a fail safe mechanism. So when we make mistakes, they're there for us. And I think when they are making mistakes, we also maybe catch it sometimes. So,
Mm.
but again, it's the same thing, right? Like there are so many factors that go into just like you getting in from like A to B. It's like mind boggling. You really should not be complaining.
Yeah.
Like, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my guess is that the air traffic controller, like you said, in the character in this movie was more like for the dramatic element, just to put a human face on the predicament that these people are facing and to make the audience understand the gravity of it.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, I think another dramatic element was the NTSB guy themselves, because I was reading up about this movie and apparently the real NTSB took offense because they were like,
Yeah.
why would we are not like just trying to find fault with Sully, and that's not our
Yes.
attitude.
Yeah.
But I guess they needed that for the dramatic tension in this movie.
Correct. Yeah, I agree. I think, okay, so most of the, so in India, it's called the AIB, Accident Investigation Bureau, or whatever. There,
AIB, not the other
AIB.
AIB.
No, 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 not the other AIB. So everyone's like, at least in aviation, like they said in the movie as well, there will be subject matter experts. There'll be like aviation medicine. There'll be one guy who's aviation medicine or psychology or whatever. Then there'll be another guy who's from Boeing if it's a Boeing like aircraft. So everyone just wants the facts. No one is going to try and pin something on some guy if it's not uh, their fault necessarily. All the facts will be considered. That's why it takes so long for a report to come out. I know, like, where in the social media is, so anytime anything happens, it's kind of like we want to know what happened right now, like, and then you'll hear all these rumors, all these myths, and the report will come out a year from now with all the data and with the causal factors. That's why we don't like to, kind of say, oh, this is what happened exactly, or, like, this guy made a mistake or that guy made a mistake. Not wise to do that, at least for us. So yeah, from everything that I've heard, I mean, again, I don't want to be part of any investigation ever in my career, but from everything I've heard, everyone's pretty professional. They don't have any kind of, especially like these governmental organizations, generally don't have a kind of thing where they say, no, we want to put it on this guy or we want to put it on that guy. So, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
it is. So, it's pretty good in that sense.
Yeah. So I think that covers the questions I had about the realism part. I guess another reason why you like this movie is a more social reason. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think most times when movies are made about pilots, it's all like, oh shit, this pilot guy is hot in uniform, and like all the women want him. So, so long as that, I'm not going to say it's a myth, but so long as that storyline keeps propagating, I feel like people will be brainwashed into that, and somehow they look at me and think that I am more attractive than I actually am, which helps me get dates. So that's important. Like, we can't gloss over that aspect. Like, everyone looks better in a uniform, right? So
I mean, unless
yeah,
it's a Nazi
it's
uniform.
I mean, dude, I'm sure the Nazis also had like their groupies,
I mean, yeah.
and I think those uniforms are tailored by Hugo Boss or something like that, right? So, like, they look good, dude, in the uniform. Like, what they were doing bad, but they look sharp while committing atrocities, or to say now, you know.
They look sharp while committing atrocities is definitely going to be a snippet that I put out.
Yeah,
Uh,
do it, do it. Oh
but
man.
yeah, we also need to touch upon the what you described as a bigger miracle than the landing on the Hudson. Do you want to talk about
What was that? What did I say?
the mustache?
Oh yeah. Okay. So it's weird, but the first officer in the movie, Jeff Skiles, I think his character name is played by Aaron Eckhart, has this mustache, and I it's odd, but like I feel like growing up, like my dad had that same mustache, and it looked immaculate. Like, I could not pay attention to what he was saying generally, but I was just thinking about what the upkeep on that mustache must be like, because as you can see, I'm like bearded, and I do it out of like sheer laziness, but his was like pristine and shaped, and like not a hair out of place. So, like, well done to him, and that makeup department, if it was makeup, and if it wasn't and he actually grew it out, wow, wow. But
Yeah.
yes,
I
that
didn't look up
mustache.
whether it was makeup or whether it was real, but I did look up the real Jeff Skiles, and he did have a similar mustache.
Yeah. Something about that mustache just gives me, like, again, obviously it's because my dad like had the same thing. Now I feel like that's just the typical like pilot mustache. And one of the crew had to have it. They just had to. Like,
Yeah.
it's incomplete if they don't.
And I think one thing we forgot to talk about is I mean, not forgot, but one thing that we should also touch upon is that opening sequence where, so
Yeah, so I mean, this is a little bit like maybe I don't want to be a downer or anything like that, but the opening sequence is obviously a worst case scenario kind of thing, which is very possible. And I think the reason why I wanted to like touch upon it is that it, that could, like, it's something that we all think about. I think as pilots, everyone has thought about it. Ignorance is bliss, like in this kind of scenario. But if you just kind of, there are so many things that could go wrong with this entire bit of like flying, like so just so many things that could go wrong. Your mind, I feel like, will naturally wander to, oh, what if XYZ? And it's not fun, especially when you are in a situation where you come close to such a thing, and then you may not realize it in the moment, but then later on, when you are being advised or there is an investigation or something, and they bring up the entire facts of what has happened, that you realize like how bad things could be. And I think we all think about it. It's not fun, and that is a part of the job that I think like no one will ever speak about, generally. And him like waking up from a dream and all that, like I'm gonna say like shit, I think everyone has had, like every pilot has had one bad dream at least, where things haven't gone according to plan, like just to put it mildly, so that was a real like. And I mean, obviously, because it was an opening sequence from a movie kind of aspect, if you have this, like it's gonna pull you in, right?
Yeah.
Like you're gonna be like, okay, I'm now invested in this.
Yeah. I
So
mean, so the sequence that you were talking about is the very start of the movie. We see the plane crashing pretty much in New York City, and then you realize that Sully's had a dream about, I guess, what might have been like in that scenario. Like that's how it
correct,
could have gone.
exactly.
But when I was watching that, um, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine as a pilot having that responsibility, and I'm sure you have that nightmare or you've had that. I don't want to. It's not a daydream, but you've pictured that worst case scenario.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's very interesting looking at that movie now because also it's New York City and this was still like 15 years after 9/11.
correct, correct.
So that's another angle there where,
Yeah,
that
and
would
I
have been,
think that one of the characters in the movie was also like, this is one of the best stories coming out in New York that has to do with planes in a very long time or something like that.
mm,
He mentions
yeah,
it. One of the
yeah,
characters mentions it. So then you're like, oh yeah, like 9/11, that kind of a thing. So yeah, so that was something that's like the not fun aspect of the job.
yeah.
Let's like put it like that. So
Okay, so that was, I think that was Sully. And is there anything that we didn't touch upon that we wanted to with this movie?
no, no, not really. I think I want to say, if you're like a little bit more interested in what really goes behind, like at least the pilot stuff, there is a show on Geo Hotstar, I think, called The Rehearsal, season 2, and it's about pilots. It's a kind of ridiculous show, but it is also sort of about pilots, and that's great. Like, it's great TV, honestly, first and foremost. But I think me and a bunch of my like pilot friends who have watched it have also, thought like, wow, this is really, really accurate and good, and yeah, yeah. So I would highly recommend that for people.
Yeah, I haven't watched the rehearsal yet, but it's very high on my watch list because I'm a huge fan of Nathan Fielder. He's like a genius, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah, he is, and I think this season like really like underlines that aspect. From Nathan for you, okay, like you can see him building up stuff. Then Rehearsal season 1 also, like, okay, sort of, but now like finished product. This is what I truly felt like when watching that. And yeah, yeah, yeah. It's Mad TV. I can't believe HBO greenlit something like this. I can't imagine what the budget was for the TV show, but it's absolutely ridiculous, and it should be a must watch for everyone. Honestly,
Yeah. And I know there's a Nazi connection in that one as well, which I won't
yeah,
spoil for the audience.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they're
Um,
everywhere, huh, by the looks of it.
but they look sharp.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of comedy genius, I think we can segue into the second movie that we want to talk about, which is Airplane.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't even know how to talk about this movie because I think I forget what the exact quote was, but because I think it was it Mark Twain or someone who's talked about understanding a joke or talking about a joke is like dissecting a frog because you can do it, but it dies in the process or something, something like
Yeah.
that. It's kind of hard to discuss a comedy in that sense, but I mean, it'll be fun to talk about this movie anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think one of the reasons why I chose this movie now is because it's like the polar opposite
yeah,
of Sully, you know? And I think this was made in 1980. And Aviation, I mean, it's changed a little bit since then, but not a whole lot, you know? So there is some stuff that's still kind of pertinent today as it was back then. And yeah, it's just a ridiculous movie. And I feel like okay, so the first spoof movie I ever watched was Hot Shots. Okay, and I didn't like, I was young. I didn't really understand the concept of what a spoof movie really was. I didn't get a lot of the references because I hadn't seen that many like war movies or anything that like Hot Shots was borrowing from. Uh, but I know I enjoyed it because it was so nonsensical, right? And like Airplane is that because now it's like an airport setting and an airplane environment sort of thing. So yeah, that's one. And I think a big reason why I liked it is also there's a little bit of nostalgia also over there, you know, because oh, this is how airports used to be, and
mm,
like this is how flying used to be. So that's kind of nice. It's kind of nice to see because it's not like that anymore at all in terms of like at least the ground stuff, you know.
yeah.
And yeah, yeah. So that was a big like draw. That was a big draw for me.
I
Yeah.
can imagine. I'll summarize the movie a little bit for before we get into it. So this, like you said, it's a 1980 film. It's kind of like a disaster spoof, I would describe it as, because it's kind of based on this 1957 movie called Zero Hour, apparently, which is, if you can believe it, it has the same plot, which the plot sounds so nonsensical. Where okay, so there's this fighter pilot who has like PTSD from the war, from the Second World War, and his girlfriend like kind of leaves him. Then he gets on a flight where that girlfriend is a flight attendant just to like pursue her. People on the flight get food poisoning, including the pilot and co-pilot, and so he has to fly the plane. And the person who's instructing him from the ground as to how to land it is was his former commander in the army or something. So, and that plot sounds so ridiculous, but that's a straightforward drama. But that's the plot that they parodied in this movie, and they've also parodied like there's a series of movies called the Airport franchise in the 70s, which they've also drawn from. But yeah, this is directed by a three-person team called the brothers, David and Jerry Zucker, and Jim Abrahams. So, somewhat rarely, it's like you don't often see three people directing a movie, but this is one of those movies
True.
that was written and directed by three people. This was a massive hit. So, this is like the third highest grossing movie of 1980, and it was made on a budget of $3.5 million, and it earned $171 million. So like one of the best returns on investment that you would have seen in the movie business. And it's got a great reputation since its release, and it's grown with time, where it's now considered one of the best comedies of all time. So when it was released, it received like the Writers Guild of America award for best adapted comedy. It was nominated for a Golden Globe, nominated for a BAFTA. In a 2007 survey by Channel 4 in the UK, it was voted the second greatest comedy of all time, beyond Monty Python's Life of
Oh,
Brian. And Empire magazine, voted it. I mean, I don't know whether Empire magazine selected or the readers of it voted, but it was voted as the number one on the list of the 50 funniest comedies ever. So yeah, it has a great,
wow.
and a lot of comedians and all have been inspired by this movie. And the Zucker brothers and Jim Abrahams went on to do other movies in this genre as well.
Genre, yeah.
But yeah, I think I described the summary already. But basically, it's about this. The plot is very secondary. It's just about insane stuff happening at an airport and on an airplane.
Yes.
And this is also available to rent on Prime for people who are interested in watching it in India. But yeah, let's let's talk about how is the polar opposite of Sully, and let's start with the. Uh, Actually, let's touch upon what you mentioned, like about the nostalgia point, because I feel like um, I don't know if this is true, but from like what I've read about, it seems like airports were a very different thing in the 1970s and 80s, where the first on airplane terrorist attacks really started happening in the late 70s and then 80s, where bombs started exploding on planes and stuff like that. But before that, there wasn't really this airport security as we know it today.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah. True.
accurate? And
Yeah, so I mean, like, so everything in aviation is has come up because there has been a mistake prior. No one's been so proactive that they've thought about all the threats that are going to happen and then like been able to mitigate it with rules. So yeah, I mean, security generally was a little bit lax earlier. Now, of course, it's very high. But back then, I think it was the barrier to entry for even taking a flight was quite high. You know, there weren't that many pilots out there, there weren't that many aircraft out there. Aviation operations weren't as widespread as they are now, so there was only a certain class of people that could afford to travel by air. And because of which, like, I've seen pictures, I don't know, I think maybe it's from the 60s or something like that, where they've brought out like a whole roast turkey and like they're carving it for the passengers to eat. And, it's a far cry from aviation as it is right now. Of course, now there's a lot of accessibility. It's good, like more people can travel and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just trying to imagine. And like my granddad, after he left the Air Force, he did fly like a little bit commercially. And I would always wonder what that kind of flying would have been like. So he's experienced a certain kind of flying, and my dad has experienced a certain kind of flying. And now, like, my brother and me are experiencing a really different kind of flying. So it's just interesting to like think back to what it would have been like, or how much we would have enjoyed it if we were there. It's kind of cool to see.
yeah,
So yeah,
because I think what struck me is like small things like the people selling things inside the airport, like that. I forget the exact thing where they're like, "Do you want to
yeah, the
donate to so and
flower
so?"
for the consciousness church or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Anyone could walk into the airport,
anyone could walk into the
and
airport.
like be there and hang out, and it was like security wasn't such a big deal. No mobile phone, so like that captain is getting an announcement to go to like those payphone type of this thing. That's cool to see, like a rotary dial phone. So some of that stuff was quite nice, like quite nice to see. Yeah,
Yeah. There's a heavy nostalgia feel, and it's weird for me when I feel nostalgia for things that I didn't experience. But some movies make you feel that, right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah.
wasn't
I
alive
thought
in
so.
1980, but
Yeah,
I feel like somehow that I don't know. I feel like I've experienced that time in some strange way.
yeah.
Um,
I feel the same way. I feel the same way.
but let's talk about how bananas this movie is. I mean, like there's so you like the dialogue, the wordplay, the humor. Like just talk about what you
Yeah.
love about this.
So I think the unrealism of the entire thing was fun. Like it's fun to be able to uh, like what is actually supposed to be the case, but then they're just like not doing that or just doing something like so completely ridiculous. You're like, this is mad. How can this be? I can't believe they're doing it. And then you're slowly just starting to see the humor in it and like see the way it kind of like works out or doesn't work out in most kind of cases. So it's like you touched upon the premise where everyone kind of gets food poisoning on the flight, and this dude has to come and land the aircraft. And fun fact, the pilots are not supposed to eat the same meal for this exact reason. It is a rule. Every airline follows it. Uh, so we will not share the same meal We will choose like different meals. We will have it at different times.
Sorry, you're saying
All
the two pilots have to eat differently.
Yeah, like if you saw in the movie that they all ate fish,
Yeah.
right? Like, and that is, you can't do that, or you're not supposed to do that. You can do whatever you want, but you're not supposed to do that to mitigate this very like thing, So, like, if I choose the veg, the other guy is gonna have the non-veg, that kind of a thing, and we don't eat it at the same time. And it has happened that like pilots have got like mild to severe food poisoning because of the food on flights. So yeah, you know. But here they both, or all three of them, in fact, like the flight engineer included, has fish and then is incapacitated, which leads to our protagonist like getting into the cockpit to try and like fly the plane down.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. So a couple of other things I really enjoyed is, I mean, the pilot names like Victor, Roger, and Clarence Over,
Yeah.
which is again, and they have this like, I think whatever 6 lines or 7 lines where they're just going like Roger, Roger, over, over, because he's Captain Over, and then each one is confused about like who's talking about who, and it's so dumb, man. Like it's so like base, but I guess like that's what appeals. Also, everything doesn't have to be so highbrow, which I think nowadays comedy is also becoming a little bit, and you know it doesn't have to be that way. You can laugh at dumb things. It's fine. No one's going to judge you for it. And it's fine to enjoy that stuff as well, is what I thought. Uh, and on some, it is dumb, but it's also clever. Like, it is
Yeah.
kind of clever to have this and like have them in situations where this comes out. So, yeah. And yeah, the entire movie is just like one ridiculous thing after another. And you have Kareem Abdul Jabbar as the co-pilot, and he's just like there, and he's trying to pretend to this kid that he's not actually Kareem Abdul Jabbar. And that was a fun sequence. I enjoyed that. Like the kid telling him what his dad thinks of him uh, was really funny. Yeah, the characters were great. The characters are great. Shout out to Autopilot, which is, if for people who don't actually know, that is exactly what an autopilot looks like. So when we press the autopilot button, which I know all my friends are fans of, there is an inflatable guy that takes my seat and flies the plane. Yes, that's it.
Yeah. So what
Yeah.
happens in this movie is that when they have to activate autopilot, he presses autopilot, as you said, and like a big ridiculous balloon of a pilot emerges in the seat. And then the best part is the plane starts flying properly because the balloon is like um, maneuvering it. And then at one point, the autopilot is deflating or whatever, and the flight attendant gets instructions from somebody on the ground saying, "Okay, look for this nozzle." That's, I mean, I saw where this was going immediately, but
Yeah,
like,
yeah, same, same,
just
same.
look
Even
for the
I did.
look for the nozzle that's on the waistband, and of course, you can imagine it's located very centrally on the waistband, right between the autopilot's legs. So then
Uh,
she's kind of blowing into the nozzle between his legs, and it's just ridiculous.
yeah,
Uh,
absolutely.
and did you notice in the credits, that autopilot dummy is credited as Otto, like
Oh
OTTO,
yeah, 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 yeah. Introducing Otto. Yeah,
introducing Otto. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Um,
like that's exactly like the wordplay was great. The wordplay was great. The lines. I think there are some like iconic lines. Like, uh, someone says, "You can't be serious, surely." He's like, "I am serious, and don't call me Shirley." And they're like instantly memorable, right? Like you're never gonna forget it after watching that or seeing that. So that kind of stuff, dialogues 10 on 10, like for me.
I was actually trying to make a list of. I mean, I lost track after a while, but I was trying to make a list of like really clever wordplay, which is like you said, it's very silly, but it's also very clever.
Yeah.
Um, where, okay, here's some. Okay, like, so one is the like the scene where you mentioned where the pilot gets a
Instruction. Oh
phone
yeah,
call,
yeah,
and he
yeah,
goes to the
yeah,
phone. First of all, there's always this element of absurd humor as well, where the person is paging the pilot on the intercom on the PA system says, "Please go to the white phone," something like that, and he picks up the black phone, and the person on the person on the other end says, "No, not the black phone, the white phone."
yeah,
So then he picks it up and he gets his instructions or whatever. And he's talking to the Mayo Clinic. Now I remember the Mayo Clinic is
yeah,
calling him
correct.
for whatever reason. And then at the same time, he gets another call from Mr. Ham. So he's like, okay, give me ham and hold the Mayo.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
uh, then somebody's asking the main protagonist whose name is Ted Stryker. He's buying a ticket. And then she asks him like smoking or non-smoking. So he says smoking, and then she gives him the ticket, and the ticket is on fire, and there's smoke coming. It's so stupid, but it's
yeah.
like,
It's so. I think there was another recurring one through the movie, which was like they would ask, "What's that?"
yeah,
And someone, I think they say, "Oh, he's gone to the hospital." So then he's like, "What's that?" He's like, "A building with sick people in it."
yeah.
And like two or
What is
three
it?
times, yeah. What is it? What is
Yeah.
it? Yeah. What is it? So, and two or three times it would be like them explaining that really nonsensical thing. But yeah, I enjoyed that. So I thought the dialogues were great.
Yeah, there's another one similar to this. What is this? Where at some point somebody brings a printout to a guy and he says, "What do you make of this? So what can you make of this?" He says, "Oh, what can I make of this? Let me see. I can make a hat. I can make like a."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like a total dad joke, like total
Yeah.
dad jokes.
But I
But
think this is the best. Like this is what dad jokes aspire to be like in this
yes,
movie. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Creme de la creme of dad jokes,
Yeah.
for sure.
I think my favorite one in this one is so in these flashbacks, they keep showing that Ted Stryker, the main character, they keep describing him as having a drinking problem.
Ye-
But what is the drinking problem? He doesn't know how to drink. So like
Yeah,
he
yeah,
like always misses his mouth and he splashes a drink on his eye
yeah,
and stuff. And he's just drinking like water and orange juice, but he can't drink it. That's his drinking problem.
yeah, correct.
Man, I just love
Uh,
this. I think what I also love is that there's many different kinds of humor in this movie. Okay, it's not just wordplay.
yeah,
Uh,
true.
right. So, for example, there's a lot of visual comedy. Like the very first frame of this movie is like it's so brilliant. It's like there's like a sea of clouds, and there's a
Yeah, Jaws. Yeah,
like the
yeah, yeah.
Jaws parody where there's
Correct.
the tail fin of the plane is moving through the cloud, and there's
Yes,
like the Jaws
yes,
music.
yeah,
I mean, it's just packed with things like that. Then there's just really silly comedy in places where you would not imagine it. So at the start of the movie, there's that when people are pulling up to the airport, the announcers are going like this,
yes,
loading and unloading in the white zone and do
yeah,
not get off in the red zone. And there's the male voice and a female voice alternating. And then they start arguing with each other, male and the female voice. And the male voice is like, no, it's like not the white zone, it's the red zone. And then they start having an argument. And apparently,
correct.
those two people are married in real life.
Oh,
And
I didn't know that.
yeah, apparently they're the actual people who are doing the announcement at Los Angeles airport. So
Nice.
apparently the directors, the people that they hired to do that bit, they were not really happy with it. So they decided to go to the actual LAX announcers and hire them for it. And they were happened to be a married couple. So then they included that banter about like you wanted me to have an abortion and something
Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah,
They
yeah.
start arguing on the
So
uh,
interesting that you mentioned like abortion, but that was another part of like the movie that I enjoyed is there was a lot of politically incorrect stuff. And the likes of which I feel like just cannot be made anymore. You know, like you had Ted Stryker, I think Ted Stryker was his name, right? Like the character. And he's talking to that lady about his career, what happened or what went wrong or something. And he comes out of the dream sequence. And oh, by the way, dream sequences where you have that thing go a little bit
yeah,
blurry and all that kind of stuff. Very underrated. I miss that as well a lot, because everyone does a cool thing now where you just kind of like figure out that they're dreaming through some weird visual tells, like in the background or something like that, or like the tone will change or something. But just having that music and like the screen blur out, very cool, very cool. I liked it. So then you get back you get back to her and she's like hung herself, and then the other guy commits seppuku or whatever. Uh, then this like young kid goes up to this young girl with like the cups of coffee, and
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, I like black coffee just like I like my man." And you're just like, "What?
And this is like a 7-year-old girl or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah." And then even the even the captain, like Captain Clarence, who was a pedophile, so like he wants the kid to like stay in the cockpit and all. It's really like you. I don't think you can make this shit anymore. Like I feel like people would just be like, "This is not done." It's like not appropriate. That kind of a thing.
I mean, the captain, it was just the some of the stuff he says, like it starts out with like he's just asking benign questions, and
Yeah,
some at some point he says, "Have you seen a out of the blue? Have you ever seen a grown man naked or like without clothes?"
yeah,
And they
yeah,
keep cutting back and forth to that, and eventually his question is, "Have you ever spent any time inside a Turkish prison?" Oh man.
yeah. It
Uh,
was, but and I do genuinely feel like it's very difficult for mainstream comedy to do stuff like that anymore. I think like you have niche stuff, there will always be stuff on YouTube and things like that, but just can't make this stuff anymore. I feel.
yeah. Or I mean, or you make it and you're gonna have a very small audience, because like the mainstream is not going to back something
Yeah,
that's politically incorrect right now, although
yeah,
maybe I
yeah,
feel like the
exactly.
tide is shifting a little bit now, a little bit maybe.
Think so. A little bit, but I mean, not enough for my liking, I think. But yeah, I just feel like this, you just can't kind of make this stuff anymore. Then there was another, I think the scene that I really enjoyed and I found really cathartic was, that lady, I think she's kind of having not a panic attack or something, but she's like really kind of freaking out. And then they just come and start shaking her. And, and then like suddenly they're cutting to a line where all these people just kind of, I don't know why I enjoyed. I don't know
Yeah,
what that says
so
about me, but like I really enjoyed that scene.
I'll describe it a little bit more with people who haven't seen it. So she's having a panic attack or something, and the first person is like, "Come on, snap out of it." So he shakes her. Or she's I forget whether it was a man or a woman, but somebody shakes her up to try and shake her out of the panic attack or whatever. Then the next person is like an old school movie, like snap out of it. Like so he slaps her or she slaps her, and then the camera goes back and you see a long line of people that are waiting to like slap her, and eventually like people at the way back have like weapons and stuff. They're like
Yeah, it's
some
spanners
ridiculous
and
cartoon
bats and all
weapons.
that shit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
baseball bat up. The last person is holding like a pistol. It's very, very absurd.
Yeah.
But I mean, just going back to what you said about comedy, one is the political correctness of it, where like now many modern comedies try to be politically correct. The other aspect is what you mentioned when you were talking about the dream sequence, where I feel like comedy nowadays tries to be like too cool, right? Like it's always like, or more often than not, it's just showing how clever the writer is. They'll put in like some
Yes.
meta thing, or they'll put in like some
Correct.
reference to like make people understand how cool they are as a comedy writer and how much they understand comedy.
Exactly.
This is very pure, like it's just having fun for the love of having fun is what's
Correct.
emerging from a movie like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's kind of nice to just like watch something simple and straightforward, and then even if you have to discuss it, you can just discuss it on the same level because it's so straightforward, rather than like you're discussing something with someone else and oh, you didn't see this reference to that kind of thing. It's because that director did this in that previous thing, that's why, oh, so clever, oh my god, I can't believe you caught that reference. Yeah, yeah, I'm really smart, I know, like
Yeah.
don't need to do that. We really don't need to have that. It's fine. It's fine.
Even another kind of really dumb but really I found this really funny is just the translations of different languages. So I think there's a sign where it's like no smoking or whatever, and then there's a Spanish version of the sign, and it's like el no smoker you or el you no smoker or some
Yeah,
ridiculous thing like that.
yeah, yeah. But
Uh,
again, like politically incorrect type, like you couldn't do that now. Like people saying, "Oh, you can't make fun of my language like that.
yeah,
So
and
yeah,
there's an Italian one as well as like go back and sit. The seatbelt sign has a go back and sit on a like.
yeah, yeah, yeah. The signs were fun.
Oh man. even there's a lot of like, do you remember that sequence where they show how not Sam Striker, what's his name?
Ted Striker, I
Ted
think.
Striker and meets that girl,
Yeah,
uh, where they go to the bar, like they meet in some African bar. First of all, he says like off the Barbary coast, which is Africa, but then he says Bombay to Calcutta, which is India.
yeah. No, and the bar name or the places were named after drinks. So he was like, I was in Drambuie, and then he talks about like another, like when they go for that Peace Corps mission or whatever, that was in another place that was named after some alcohol only. So yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So and then they have a. So I thought The Office had the funniest use of staying alive when they have that fire safety episode. Fire
yeah.
safety, yeah, the where they're practicing like CPR on that
CPR.
dummy.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
this is like this movie has a competing version for funniest use of staying alive because the flashback of how those two met in a bar is set to staying alive, and it's just this ridiculous dance that you have to. Like, I guess you can't really describe it. You have to like see it to believe it.
Yeah, yeah. You have to watch it. But
Also, another really funny thing in that bar sequence is they say that this bar had the seediest characters, and every night something or the other was going down. And you see like a shot of like people playing cards on a table, and somebody puts down a card and is about to take like the poker chips or whatever, and another hand slaps that down, and they start having a fight. But then you zoom out and you're expecting to see like these like rowdy thugs
yeah, burly
brawling, but it's
guys.
like two
Yeah,
Girl Scouts like who are
yeah.
playing cards and fighting with each other.
Correct,
So
correct.
I don't know how they found like humor. There's literally like humor and packed into every second of this movie.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, there can't be even the even the dancing initially where she's dancing with this dude, but then that guy gets stabbed and like he's making these motions, but she thinks it's like dancing. Just like yeah, but you can't help but laugh. You want to you want to kind of hate it. You want to go like this is so ridiculous. I can't believe I'm sitting here watching it, but you're sitting and you're watching and you're kind
Yeah.
of enjoying it also. You know, so yeah.
Yeah. One thing I do feel is that the look of this movie, uh, I think it's sort of intentionally low budget in a way, right? Like it has a very B movie. Uh,
I think, I mean, this is just me theorizing, but I feel like spoof comedies back then were just, I think it added to the allure that it was. I mean, and at 3.5 million or whatever, it's low budget, right? Like for a Hollywood movie or whatever. But I think that kind of made it seem, or they would want it to be that way so that they could get away with more things. You know what I mean to say? Or you could add more ridiculous stuff to it because they already like this is so ridiculous, like anything can happen. So, like,
yeah.
why to make it like look finished and like glitzy or well done? So
Yeah.
that's yeah,
No,
definitely adds to the movie.
I think you're right because so the composer of this movie, if I can't, I may be getting the name wrong, but I think it's Elmer Bernstein, who was actually a really big composer in Hollywood, who's composed scores for like really some big Hollywood movies of the past.
Okay.
Leonard Bernstein, Elmer Bernstein. Let's go with that for now. But so they hired him to do the score of this movie, and they were like, "Don't give me like a like a good movie score. Like give me like
Yeah,
it has to
just
sound
do
like a
bad.
bad P movie overdone score," and that's exactly what he delivered.
Yeah. Wow.
Um,
That's cool.
One more thing I was reading about this, which is a really smart decision by the directors, is that apparently there's no comedians cast in this movie. So
Mhm.
what they intentionally did is they took like people who are known primarily for dramatic roles,
Okay.
and they cast them like Leslie Nielsen, who plays the doctor
Yeah, yeah,
on the plane, and then he would go on to be like in all those Naked Gun movies. But everybody in this movie has primarily done drama before this. And they said that it was just to us that was make the director said that to us that just made it funnier because these people are just delivering lines and we instructed them to just deliver lines as if they are in a drama
yeah.
because they don't really think what they're doing is funny. They're just like giving the straight faced line delivery,
Correct.
which is much funnier than if they cast some comedian of the 80s, like, I don't know, Eddie Murphy or somebody. And
Yeah, yeah,
they are sort
yeah.
of knowingly playing this for laughs.
Correct. That's so. I discovered Airplane much after I saw like Leslie Nielsen in his other roles.
Hmm.
So his other like spoof roles, like you said, Naked Gun, or like I saw Mr. Magoo. I don't know if you've ever heard of that. So I saw him in these movies, and I was like, man, this guy, what is he doing? Like he's in all these spoof movies, and then I discovered Airplane, and I just thought, like, oh, okay, now I understand why he's like in Naked Gun and all these movies that came later because I mean, clearly he enjoyed doing what he was doing here, you
Yeah.
know. So, and I think that I I want to say he became more famous for these kind of roles than he did for I think any serious stuff that he's ever
Oh.
done.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I primarily knew him, or I first came to know him through these movies.
Yeah,
It's later that I discovered that he used to be like a serious action star before this.
that's
Uh,
mad.
he's
That's
really
mad.
good at this, though, right?
Yeah, yeah, he's really good. He's really, really good.
So that line that you mentioned, apparently it was voted like, the AFI, American Film Institute, does these lists of like
Yeah,
100
yeah,
greatest movie quotes or whatever. So the "I am serious, but don't call me Shirley."
yeah,
That was like number 78 or something on the greatest.
yeah. I'm not surprised. Like it's just the dialogue was just too good. I really enjoyed that aspect. I really did.
There was another one that randomly came to my mind right now, where similar to this one. Yeah. So when Ted Stryker is being convinced by this doctor played by Leslie Nielsen and his girlfriend to fly the plane, he's like, "But this is a different kind of flying altogether." And then they repeat after him. They both say
Yeah,
in unison, "It's
yeah.
a different
This is a
kind of
different
flying,"
kind of flying.
because
Yeah,
he
yeah,
said
yeah.
altogether.
Altogether. Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, highly recommend this. I mean, it's just a hilarious movie, and like one of the craziest comedies ever made. Yeah, let's talk about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I guess, before we conclude, because that was a pretty epic cameo, and
Correct. I think so. I can't think of a lot of movies where sports people have come into movies and played themselves, sort of. Especially back then. Maybe right now, like the this thing of sports and movies, it kind of intertwines. So like you will see LeBron. I know LeBron's been in certain movies. There are a lot more sports people that are kind of in movies and they kind of do have roles, sort of thing. But Kareem Abdul Jabbar, who would have been one of the most famous basketball players at the time, just kind of sitting there as a pilot, like you would never imagine him, obviously. So that's like a little bit absurd. Then this kid comes in and he says, "Oh, you look a lot like him," and then proceeds to batter him, about his like playing, and then he starts to get really angry and all, which I thought that moment, funnily, like he's not a great actor or anything like that, but I thought that moment you could see on his face that like this is the stuff that he hears like in real
yeah,
life, and that was the most natural reaction at the time, where he's like trying to shout at kid, and he's like, you try doing, you ask your dad to do it every night or something
yeah.
like that. It was like I could tell he wanted to get that out like for a really really long time. And then eventually when he gets like incapacitated and they're like trying to pull him out, and he's wearing like the Lakers ka shorts and his like knee pads and all that.
Was the best. Yeah.
That was really funny. Yeah, and funnily enough though, I Kareem Abdul Jabbar writes columns for newspapers now, and it's really really insightful. Like the kind of stuff that he writes is he's a smart guy, man. So if anyone wants to read his stuff, I'm sure it's like out there in on the internet. But yeah, like that's how. So now I kind of whenever if I ever come across any of the articles that like he writes, the
Mhm.
first thing I think of is him in this movie.
Yeah.
So
I forget the name of his character in this movie. Some
Roger Murtaugh, I think. Yeah, Roger
Yeah.
Murtaugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just cracked up when they start when he loses consciousness and they're trying to carry him out, and then they
Yeah.
lift him up and he's wearing like Laker shorts under his pilot uniform.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I was reading, I can't remember whether it was an interview with the directors or whether it was the actually an interview with the kid who was in that scene.
Mhm.
But whoever it was said that he actually got. We don't think he was acting in that scene because he got very agitated when like he said heard those lines, and he just
Yeah.
like
No,
spontaneously
you can
responded.
see it. You can see it because the rest of the movie, you can see he's a little bit like unsure.
Yeah.
Acting is not his thing. But oh man, when that kid says that stuff about him and his like gameplay, like that was the most natural like I've ever seen.
And apparently he shook the kid really hard, harder than he was supposed to.
So I mean, clearly the kid did his job also.
Yeah, that was damn fun. And I think it's a great again now it's it's in the age of like PR and everything. People do these things intentionally, but they want to show how they are cool with like presenting an
Yeah,
image of themselves and make fun of themselves, even if they don't really believe that.
correct,
But
correct.
back
Yeah,
then, I
that's
feel like it was rare for like someone like because he was the biggest basketball player in the world.
yeah, absolutely.
So for
Yeah,
him to
I
just come
think
and take
correct.
a shot at
For him to
himself.
put himself like in that situation and all that, it would have been unique at the time. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So
Apparently, last thing on Karun, last thing on Kareem Abdul Jabbar. Apparently, Delta Airlines in 2014,
uh-huh.
the safety video which they do before takeoff. They did a safety video in which Kareem Abdul Jabbar was reprising his character from this movie, and he did
Oh,
the
that's amazing.
safety video
He did the
as
safety
whatever.
demo. Yeah, yeah, as
What's the
Roger
name of the guy
Moto.
again?
Roger Moto.
Yeah, as that guy.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
I want to try and find. I'll try and find a version of. I'll find a copy of it.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was anything else on Airplane that we didn't touch upon.
No, I think that was everything.
Is there anything in this movie that's realistic from an aviation standpoint?
I think I mentioned right the autopilot's pretty real. No, okay, I'm joking, of course. No, not a lot. Honestly, really not a lot. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I'm tempted to ask which part of the autopilot was realistic, but I'll I won't ask that question.
No, no.
Um,
It would be fun, like if that was the actual autopilot, but no, it's not. But yeah, nothing was real about it, and that's why I like it. Yes.
okay, so cool. That was Sully and Airplane. It was really fun talking about these movies and getting a pilot's perspective on them. And that's bringing us closer to the end of this conversation, but we can't finish without a quiz. So, are you ready for our signature quiz round?
Yes, I am. I either want to do the best or the worst. I want to finish like I need to have some sort of record in this quiz.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. The previous episode was with my friend Karthik, who did really well.
Uh-huh.
He's a quizzer, though.
Oh,
Uh,
it doesn't count separate category.
yeah, but you've generally done fairly well. I think you've been amongst the top two or three people in the quizzes which I've conducted for our group of friends. So I think you'll do
Yeah,
well on this one.
yeah.
But I
Let's
don't know.
see.
Because of that, I've tried to make like give
Oh,
questions which are,
tougher. Whoa,
but
that's
I don't want to
unfair.
make them too tough. So I don't know. I feel like you'll
Yeah,
get many of these or most
yeah.
of these.
Let's see. We'll find out. We'll find out.
Okay, are you ready?
I am. Let's go.
Okay, so question one is actually three sub questions. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you, I'm going to describe the origins of various words, and these are all words related to like aviation in some way.
Okay.
And I'm just going to describe the origin of the word or the term, and you tell me what word or term I'm referring to.
Okay.
The first one, this originated as a nautical term in the 17th century. The literal meaning of the word originally was boat servants area.
Galley.
No, not galley, but that's a good guess.
Fuck. Okay. Is there more to this thing? To this clue,
No,
or that's the clue?
this is the clue for the first word. Then I'll give you once you get this one, I'll give you the second and third one.
Boat servant area.
Boat servants area is the literal meaning of the original word which gave rise to this.
Huh.
There's a second. I mean, there's a second. So this is the actual origin of this word. Or do you
Okay.
know? Do you want to take a guess? Or
No, I'm trying to think of what would be even close to it.
I'll give you the There's a second origin for this word apparently, where
Okay.
some people think the origin of this word was because of the second reason.
Okay.
So I'll tell you that second reason, but that's very easy. You'll get it immediately. Which is the
Can't
king's.
be cockpit.
It is
Cannot.
cockpit. Yeah.
No, I don't believe that was the origin. I mean, I don't believe that this thing number one was. I don't believe it.
So I'll tell you the etymology. So the word is coxswain, Coxswain.
Yeah.
So coxswain comes from a particular kind of boat called a cock boat, and swain
Okay.
means servant. So boat servant. So coxswain's pit or coxswain's area is where the coxswain in the boat would be
Yeah.
stationed. So originally it started like with the boats and cockpit, and then eventually it became a place where the wounded were taken in battle.
Uh-huh.
And then eventually, when planes came into being, like they just carried that term over. The second origin story apparently is that in London, the King's Cabinet, the building where the King's Cabinet met, was constructed over an area where previously there used to be a cockfighting ring.
Wow.
So
Okay.
since that was the control center of the kingdom or whatever, it was like the cockpit. But
I just thought it was because like historically only dudes sat in that area, so like
cockpit,
that's
literally.
yeah, literally, right? Like that's the origin I want everyone to remember.
Okay, let's go with that.
Yeah.
Okay, second one. Okay, this comes from a French word that means spindle shaped. Okay. Um,
Okay.
that's the first part of it. If you can get it from that, I'll give you a chance. If not, I'll give you a second part of the same question, which is again, spindle is like a cylinder. Spindle is
Yeah.
so this comes from a French word that means spindle shaped.
Yeah, I want the second part of the clue.
Okay, there's a similar Italian word which is similar to this French word, and that Italian word gives its name to a kind of pasta.
It's like what, like tortellini or some shit?
Close. I
Ah,
mean, it's
yeah,
a
yeah.
kind of pasta. Think about spindle shaped, just cylindrical, and think about a pasta that kind of sounds like a part of a plane.
This is so ridiculous. I've never thought about pasta and plane like at the same time. Uh, I want to say like fusilli is the pasta.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Shit, man. Do I know more about food than I know about planes?
I mean, you got the harder. Like, if you know Fusili, you should be able to guess what this.
Like what, the engine?
No,
I don't know.
fuselage.
Like prop. Oh, fuselage. Oh, okay. Yeah, fair. Fair point.
So fuselage
Yeah.
comes from the French fusele, which means spindle shaped, and Italian word is fuso, which is gives rise to fusili. So fusili and fuselage have the same.
Yeah.
I mean, both French and Italian are kind of derived from Latin
Yeah.
anyway. So
Yeah, of course.
ultimately, this goes back to
Ah.
Latin.
Ah.
Okay, I'm feeling better about my questions now. I thought these might be too easy.
Oh, I'm feeling bad about my performance now.
No, no, don't worry. This is good. You've been on the right. You got cockpit, and you got fusili out. You've been on the right track.
Yeah, somewhat.
And
Somewhat.
I forgot to mention at the beginning that if you're learning, you're winning.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. I do feel like I'm learning. So,
Okay. So this is the next word. It's actually an abbreviated version of a longer word.
okay.
But now everybody uses the abbreviated version. Nobody uses the longer word.
Mm-hmm.
But this longer word is formed from the combination of two things. The first thing is a carbon-based liquid, and the second thing is a surname of an engineer who invented a method for road building.
Okay. Wow.
Okay, so I'll just repeat it because that might have been a bit complicated. So
Yeah.
there used to be a longer word which was made of two parts.
Okay.
The first part of that longer word is a carbon-based liquid.
Okay.
The second part of that longer word was the name of an engineer, the surname of an engineer who invented a method for road building. And that longer version is made out of these two words combined.
Okay.
But now everyone uses an abbreviated version of that longer word.
Okay.
So what is the abbreviated word?
I don't even know the long. I thought you would give me the like abbreviated or some.
The longer word is what I've given you the clue for, which is carbon liquid plus surname of engineer.
Liquid.
Carbon based liquid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Black in color, chalo.
Yeah, like I'm clearly you're talking about oil. And this is supposed to be a part of an airplane?
No, this is not a part of an airplane. This is
Uh-huh.
but it has to do with it is a part of the airport, let's say.
I say like apron or tarmac or some shit.
Tarmac is correct.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
tarmac is
Tar
the
and
John McAdam, who invented a method of like road building where that was called macadam. That material was called macadam, where
yeah.
you would have like layers of gravel one on top of the other.
Uh,
So then eventually somebody improved upon that, where they had tar plus macadam. So
oh,
that mixture of tar and macadam was called tar macadam, and that just became tarmac over time.
interesting. So one thing to note, okay, is that like in aviation, a lot of terms that we use, there's a kind of delineation between uh, the American words and the rest of the world type words. So in America they use ramp a lot. We don't use ramp. Like internationally, ramp is very rarely used. Like apron and tarmac is like different. So there are a lot of words that we don't use like in general international aviation, but get used a lot in American aviation. You
What is
know,
RAM? What is the equivalent of ramp?
so a ramp is like where the gates. I mean, where we park the aircraft, we call it apron.
Oh,
But in America they call it ramp. So then there are lots of terminologies that are like slightly different, in
okay.
America that they use. So that's also like kind of interesting. So when you fly over there, like the way you call ATC is a little bit different from the way you call ATC here. They use fun fact like for pressure, they use millibars,
Mm.
but we use hectopascals like as units. They use feet, we use meters. Kind
Yeah,
of
I don't know why they
differences
have to
exist.
complicate things for everybody else.
Really, really, like no one knows.
Yeah,
But what do you do? What do you do?
which is very weird because otherwise it's like a country that kind of values simplicity a lot, and I don't know,
Yeah.
like
No, but you know how they do simplicity, right? Like anytime they have to describe like the length of something, it'll always be in football fields.
yeah,
So like this aircraft is as long as two football fields put together, or
yeah,
something like that. Or the wings are as big as a football field, or 10 refrigerators, or like the units of measurement is like a little skewed. This is something that I've noticed.
yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah, cool.
Question two, slightly longer question. This is about the movie Sully.
Okay.
Okay, so when deciding when they should release Sully, Warner Brothers decided on the first weekend after Labor Day in the US, because that's the general period that they release adult dramas which have some awards potential. But for this particular movie, the Warner Brothers executives were slightly wary of doing that for some particular reason. But ultimately, they decided to overlook that particular concern that they had, because this was an IMAX movie and they would not have had enough IMAX screens to release it in the summer or during Christmas time. So they said, this is the only window we have. So let's just, despite our concern, go ahead and release it this time anyway. So what was the concern?
Uh, when was this really? June 2016 or some shit like that.
The first weekend after Labor Day in 2016.
Know what Labor Day is,
Yeah, if I
but
that's the reason why I phrased it that way, because otherwise it would have become obvious.
yeah, but I'm like 100% sure it'll have something to do with some sort of aviation accident or something like that, right? Like
Yeah.
or some aviation incident, because that's always the reason, for like these kinds of things, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're
So
90% of the way there.
yeah, but now which one that happened in 2016 and all, I'm unsure of.
Yeah, I
Uh,
mean, it's
Too
the
many.
aviation incident. Like, it's not 2016. It's like the ultimate aviation
Oh,
incident.
like 9/11 only.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So basically, the release date was coinciding with the 9/11 weekend. Uh,
Oh, okay.
and they were like, and there's literally a scene at the start of the movie where a plane is crashing into New York City. They're like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. But I think this is one of the reasons why very few, like you'll never see Sully on in-flight entertainment on any aircraft. Like it's kind of like that also.
but
Never gonna.
apparently Virgin Atlantic chose to include it. They were the only
Or
airline. where because
Wow. Oh,
they said this represents the tremendous skill and
yeah. So actually,
bravery of
after this
pilots.
happened, Richard Branson was wanted to hire Sully, and he was like, "I'll give you double the salary and all. You just come and work for Virgin." So I guess he was a big fan. So one of the reasons why.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, I remember this.
Bonus question, which just I'm just giving this question off the
Uh
cuff.
huh. Uh huh.
Similar kind of reason, similar kind of thing with Sully. With Sully only. The Brazil release of Sully, which was supposed to happen a couple of months after this.
I know this
Yeah.
is because of the football team.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you
I
remember
forgot the
which
name of the football team. Not Corinthians. Something with a C only, I think.
Chapo? I've forgotten. Chapecoense or something.
Oh yeah, Chapecoense.
Chapecoense. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
yeah, I remember that.
Damn, I could have asked a different question about this now that I remember.
I
Now
mean,
that I
you
thought
still
about it.
can.
Okay, fine. So I'm sorry if I'm probably butchering this pronunciation, but let's
I mean,
Chapecoense, or let's call it Chapecoense. So they're a Brazilian team that was, I think, same 2016 November. The entire first team wasn't on a plane, and the plane crashed. And apart from three members of the football team, like pretty much everyone was killed. They were The flight was from Brazil to Colombia. I forget which cities exactly, but they were traveling. Was it no? I don't know whether the flight was to Colombia, but they were traveling somewhere to play in a cup final against a
mhm.
team from Colombia. It was like a South American football tournament, and I don't know how to phrase this question. I'm kind of giving her the answer already. They were traveling to play a cup final against a team from Colombia, Atletico something. Uh, okay, so that's when this team, Chapo Coense team, crashed. The plane crashed and they died and everything.
Yeah.
But then subsequently, after that, something happened which um, caused the Colombian team, Atletico Colombia or whatever, Atletico Nacional, that was the name of the team.
Okay.
They were awarded the FIFA Fair Play Award uh, that year.
Okay.
So what did they? Damn, I should have asked. I should have started with this. I should have started with this. Okay. Uh, yeah. So what did they do that caused them to win the Fair Play Award?
I mean, I would assume they would have like not played the game, or
I
I
mean,
mean, if they really really wanted to do fair play, then they would have taken the same plane that those guys took.
oh
Like
my god.
that's fair play. But
Hello.
yeah, I can't. I don't know.
So they requested FIFA to award the title of the cup to the deceased team, basically. So the whatever that cup was awarded
Yeah,
to Chapeau Quincy, and these people were named the runner-up, even though they didn't
yeah.
play the match. And because of that, they won. That team won the Fair Play Award.
Ah, sweet, very
Damn,
sweet
I
of
should
them.
have started with
Yeah.
that. Like, why did this team win the Fair Play Award, and how is that connected to Sully? Is the what the question should have been. Never
Yeah.
mind.
Next
Uh,
time, next time.
Next time, I'll put it in another quiz, which
Yeah.
you're not part of.
Yeah, which I'm not part of. Yeah.
Okay, question three. Okay, so one of the early emergency water landings in U.S. aviation history took place on September 30th, 1951. Two Navy 81 Sky Raiders left Seattle for a routine flight to Sacramento. Lieutenant, as I believe it's called in the US,
Yeah.
Lieutenant F.C. Anderson, who was the pilot of one of the Sky Raiders, realized he was low on fuel and lost his wingman in the fog. So he executed an emergency landing in the Pacific Ocean off the coast of California. And he just had one other passenger on the plane with him, and both he and his passenger survived the landing. Now, this passenger was somebody well known. So, who was the passenger?
What?
September 30th, 1951, Navy Sky Raider, who was the passenger of Lieutenant F.C. Anderson, who survived this
Jimmy
emergency.
Carter.
Not Jimmy Carter,
But
but good guess.
was it a former president?
Not a former president, but somebody that um, has some political links, I would say.
Political links, but not a former president.
Not a former president, not a politician also, but somebody that has affiliations with politics. Like this is a person that's interested in politics and makes their opinion about politics known.
1951. Come on.
It's quite a. You want a further hint?
Yeah, I do.
That person has some link with this movie also with the Sully.
Huh. Was it that this thing? No. Was it that airbase that they were flying out of or something?
No. The actual
The,
person
yeah,
is
named after
associated
him.
to this movie in some way.
Don't tell me it was Clint Eastwood only or something
It
like
was
that.
Clint Eastwood, yeah.
Oh, that's ridiculous. I
Yeah.
was gonna guess like some Elvis Presley or something like that.
So Clint Eastwood was in
Damn.
the army and he was on this plane and he survived this plane crash. And he wanted to make a movie of Sully and he was drawn to the story of Sully because he had
Yeah.
this experience himself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty
That's
cool.
crazy. Yeah, that is pretty cool. I had never known that. Huh.
Okay. Question 4. I think you'll get this one. Now this is related to airplane. In airplane, an air traffic controller is instructed to check the radar range at one point in the movie, and then he immediately stands up and opens a microwave oven. And that's also another piece of wordplay because that brand of microwave oven was called Amana Radar Range. That was one of the first microwave ovens that were commercially available.
Oh,
Now, incidentally, the invention of microwave ovens has a strong link with aviation. So, what was the link, if you know?
the link between microwaves and radar.
Yeah. Like basically the story of how microwave ovens came to be invented or discovered or whatever word you want to use is related to.
I guess like okay, from logic it would seem that this guy put a plate of his food on the radar and it became hot or something like that, because of which like the microwave was born, I guess.
You're very close to the right answer, actually. I'll give it to you. So,
Yeah.
the guy who invented the microwave oven was called Percy Spencer. He was a military scientist or a scientist who was working with the military on radar technology. And I think what happened was that when he was working on this radar thing, he had a chocolate bar in his pocket and
Yes.
he noticed the chocolate bar melted.
Melted. I have read this story.
Yeah.
I've read this story.
So that's when the light bulb went off and he was like,
Yeah.
oh, wow.
Damn.
Okay, last question. This is a really cool one. Okay, so Airplane was one of the first movies, one of the earliest movies, not one of the first, but yeah, one of the earliest movies to do something which is now very commonplace in movies, especially with franchise movies. Okay. And Airplane's version of this thing that they did involved American politician Howard Jarvis, who had a cameo in this movie. Okay. And his cameo was ironic because Jarvis was known for advocating fiscal responsibility and limited spending. So I'll repeat.
Yes.
Airplane did something which was one of the earliest movies to do this thing back then. Now it's very, very common. You'll see it all the time, especially in franchise movies.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever this thing was that they did in this movie, it involved American politician Howard Jarvis. And it was ironic because Howard Jarvis is someone that was known for advocating fiscal responsibility and limited spending. He was a politician.
Mm.
And he has a cameo in this movie, basically.
Something that Hollywood sequels do
All the time now, yeah. It's pretty much in every franchise movie now you'll find this. But back then, this was one of the first 5 or 10 movies to have done this ever.
fiscal, something to do with the opposite of fiscal responsibility, essentially.
Yeah, but that's not the key part to focus on.
Yeah.
Focus first on what is the thing that they did in the movie. So if the part on fiscal responsibility was not there, and if you had to guess what is something that Airplane did, which franchise movies do all the time now, what would that thing be?
Keep the same cast or something like that.
No, it's related to this movie specifically. It's not related to other sequels or anything of that sort.
Huh.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. The MCU brought this practice back like big time.
Parallel universes is what the MCU brought back.
No, that's like a storytelling element. This is more like something. an element of the movie that
Yeah.
it increased people's let's say sitting time in the theaters.
Oh, a post-credit scenes.
Yeah, post credit scene. So
Oh, with Otto.
no, so this is not with Otto. So I didn't see this, so I also turned off the movie in the credits only.
Yeah.
But apparently there is a post credit scene, and it's
Oh,
really funny because if you remember the start of the movie, Ted Stryker is actually a taxi cab driver,
yeah. Oh, that
and
guy.
some guy
And a
gets into
meter.
the taxi, and
Huh.
this guy says, "I'll be back in 5 minutes," and then he goes running into the plane, into the airplane,
Correct.
and then he gets onto the, sorry, he goes running into the airport, then he gets on the plane, then he has this whole saga on the plane. Apparently, in the post-credit scene, you see this guy is still waiting for him in the taxi cab, and then he looks at his watch and he says that I'm just going to give him 20 more minutes, and then that's it, I'm done. And
Oh, I was not aware of this.
even I was not aware of this. I read this up later, and apparently the guy who's in this doing this cameo as the taxi cab passenger is this American politician called Howard Jarvis. And it's ironic because he's advocating like fiscal responsibility and all,
And
and he's
he's
just
just sitting
wasting
in a
time.
cab that,
He's
yeah,
sitting in a cab like that's racking up a
meters running.
$5,000 meter or something.
Oh, oh, damn. Yeah, I didn't thought about like post-credit scene and Marvel. Yeah, you're right. Like that's their shtick.
So that's it.
Ah,
Good performance in the quiz.
yeah, not bad, not
Not
bad. I'd
bad,
say.
not bad.
Yeah,
I'm happy. And
yeah, I'm all right.
yeah, that was Sully and Airplane with Tanay Hegde. This was really fun. This is actually the part of the podcast where I ask my guests if they want to promote their social media, but you're not on social media.
Yeah, I'm not proudly.
I mean, you are, but you are secretly like you're undercover.
Yeah, I'm undercover. I want no one to know I'm on social media.
Okay. Is there anything that you would like to promote for to our audience?
Whenever you're choosing to buy a ticket, please fly a casa. Help pay me my salary. Very important. Yeah. And that's about it, man. I hope I can do this again with you at some point.
Yeah, I really hope so. This was really fun. Maybe we don't have to only do flying movies. We can do something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there are many other flying movies that I would love to also get perspective on.
Top Gun, dude. Come on.
I can't believe it didn't even. How did I not think of Top Gun? Okay, whole other thing. Okay, but yeah, this was great. I think this is going to be the longest episode so far, but it was really fun. And as always, for the audience, um, you know, actually maybe Tanay can say like, this is your captain speaking, and your captain wants you to like, share, subscribe. Particularly subscribe because I need a certain number of minimum subscribers to start monetizing this channel. So it'll be really helpful if you could subscribe to this channel. And
Come
yeah,
on, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Also, unrelated, but look at me. I am the captain now. Is what I want to be in the podcast.
okay, nice.
Oh, it's another Tom Hanks captain movie. So,
Yeah, and I think maybe released in the same year. No,
no, can't be in the same. I feel like it released after.
it was very close to that. If it's not 2016, it's 2015. It's one of these 2 years.
I thought Captain Phillips was more recent.
But there's a whole
I'll
meme,
take your word for it.
there's a whole meme about how you should never travel with Tom Hanks, right? Like
Yeah.
Captain
Yeah.
Phillips,
Castaway.
Sully, Castaway, Apollo 13.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm forgetting a few. But
Right.
yeah, awesome. Thanks a lot, Tanay. This was really fun.
I enjoyed it, man. Can't wait to see it up, and can't wait to see more episodes also. So nice. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.